to you from the U.S. and streaming all over the world. This is Shotgun Sports USA. Get accurate, reliable information in every single episode. With interviews from the best shooters in the game, the best gun clubs across the globe, and industry-leading companies that revolutionize the sport. Find us online at shotgunsportsusa.com. Shotgun Sports USA is driven by Beretta, the #1 choice of champions. Also brought to you by Cole Gunsmithing, Rick Hemingway's Pragmatic Trap Sales, Castellani USA and Ultimate Shooting Accessories, Soundgear Phantom, Clay Target Vision, and Clay Shooter Supply. Welcome to the show.
My guest on the show today is a 2023 Junior Team USA shooter. He is a college student at Texas A&M and on the trap and skeet team. He is an overall great young man, and I'm glad I finally got him on the show with me. Please welcome Cade Faetche. We have Cade on the podcast to start with, but I don't know how to say your last name because I've heard it so many different times. Tell me how to say it.
It's pronounced Cade Faetche. But you know, I get a lot of stuff. I mean, here recently in England, I got Cade Faetche, or I actually got Cade Faetche, which kind of hurt my feelings. I didn't think I looked like a Cady, but I got Faetche, I get Fetch. You know, go fetch that dog. You get Cade Faetche.
Yeah.
You know, Cade. I mean, it's a whole spiel.
So you just answered all of them now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got called Code one time, and I said, "Yep, that's me." So,
well, now that we know, we can move on. I caught you in a spare moment over in Hungary as you're getting prepared for World FITASC. I know you just left EJ shooting the World English, so tell me a little bit about that.
EJ was a great time. I mean, it's my first time over here in Europe. I'm on the FITASC team. I wasn't on the sporting team, but I still went, you know, because I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to go to Europe for this amount of time. You know, wife's going to get in the way soon, I'm sure. So I decided to go. I went by myself,
really?
But I traveled along with, you know, Will and Lori, who are my adult supervision, which was nice. But EJ itself was everything that I could have ever dreamed of. I mean, I've been wanting to go to that club since I watched the YouTube videos about it when I was 14 years old in 2017, watching all my friends get to go. And, you know, it was really awesome experience to get to see it myself. It was different, but I enjoyed it. I didn't shoot as great as I wanted to. It did have my moments of greatness, but, you know, I couldn't get it all together the way that I wanted to. But overall, I was pretty happy with it.
You know, if you think about this for a second, there's not a whole lot of American shooters that'll get to see EJ Churchill. Just a few. I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that will go over there. So
no. But if you get the chance, I mean, I know everybody says it, but I wholeheartedly recommend at least going one time. You know, to say that you've been, because it was truly an incredible experience. I mean, one of the best run shoots I've ever been a part of. Registration was great, swift. The shuttles were different. No golf carts. You had to walk. But, I mean, the shuttles would get you there quick and efficiently. So I truly had no complaints. Food was good. And, the Englishmen were more than kind to the Americans. The Americans had their own little building set off aside that we could put our stuff up in. So, I mean, they were very accommodating and just overall great experience.
So what's one thing that you say you would remember forever about EJ Churchill and the experience over there?
EJ and everything. I mean, honestly, the aspect of starting on stand one and going through the course. I'd heard, you know, that in Europe they did that, but I've never gotten to experience that. And I really, really did enjoy having to start on the first station of the course and go through it the same pace that everybody else was going through it. Because I really think momentum is something that's, you know, kind of not really talked about whenever we shoot in America. And I think that it was unique to have everybody go start on station one. Also, another thing that I really enjoyed doing was I shot the main event on Thursday. I couldn't get in on the weekend, but I got to go out with the teams on Saturday, and it was raining and everything, and I had my umbrella, and I was just trying to be a team player the best I could, and I was just helping people out, trying to keep their stuff dry. But it was cool to see the open team shoot together and watch everybody finish all around the same time. As miserable as it was with the weather, it ended up being a really, core memory of mine for years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah. You're talking about starting on station one. How smooth was that? I hadn't experienced that either. So how smooth was it?
Okay.
Everybody starting like
yeah.
that?
So, they do a good job of numbering the squads. So I think I was 130 or something, for example, but they call your squad, and I think they give you about 7 to 10 minutes in between squads, but they send you out pretty early. I think it's about 20 to 30 minutes early. They send you out, and it's only about a 5 to 7 minute bus ride to the estate. But you get out there and I'll be honest with you, when they dropped me off at the estate for my first event, the super sporting, I didn't really know where I was. And I just kind of looked around for a flag, and I started walking in that general direction with Lori, and we ended up going in the right spot. But, overall, once you get there, I would say every time that I'd start, there would be, 1 or 2, maybe 3 squads ahead at the most. But once they got it started, they had it paced out pretty well. They obviously know what they're doing, with the SIMOs and report pairs. There wasn't any huge backups that I experienced, but as far as starting on the first stand, I thought it was great.
Yeah. I've always wondered that. I mention this all the time on the podcast about walking. I'd have to catch my breath once I got down that far. I'd back up everybody.
I got a little tired myself. I'm a little skinny guy, but I definitely had to take some breaks. The walk-in, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't all that cool either.
You talking about being skinny? I remember when you were, I don't know, several years ago. Of course, you were a lot shorter, and you were a lot thicker too. And then you grew up all of a sudden. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, that was about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was a couple inches shorter and more than a few pounds heavier back then. So
yeah. So you made Junior Team USA in FITASC, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you also were on the FITASC team in 2020. So
yes.
When did making? How old are you now, Cade?
I turned 20 this past February.
Okay. So how long has being on Team USA been on your radar?
I would say, honestly, probably didn't really know, how to make. I knew that there was Team USA and everything like that, but as far as the parameters of trying to make it, I probably didn't know until probably late 2019 or so, if I had to guess. I think I don't really remember how it all happened for me to make that team, but I think I was just shooting well, and I went to a couple of regionals, and the next thing you know, somebody kind of came up to me and said, well, if you do good at nationals, you can make the team. And I was like, oh, okay. I kind of stumbled into that one. But then after I made it that one time, I was pretty hooked, and it became, a goal of mine every year to try and make one or the other. Yeah. But, through COVID and high school graduating and things like that, that I didn't accomplish as many teams as I would like to. But I'm still glad that, I finally made the team again. But I got one more year of sporting left, but then after that, I'm on to the Open. So that'll be a little bit more challenging for sure.
And making it in 2020, that's when they shot it over in Mississippi. So this is really the first time you shot overseas, and I'm sure it feels like the full experience this year.
Yeah, I always say I felt like I kind of got half the experience, with it being in America in general, the World FITASC. But then, with COVID, that put a damper on it as well. But that was still a great shoot. Jamie Peckham came over and set the targets, I believe, and that was awesome. But I am glad to finally get over to Europe. I feel like this is something I've wanted to do for a long time.
So finding out that you made the team again this year, how excited – I guess I don't know if it's excited or how accomplished do you feel knowing that you're among some of the best junior shooters in the world? It's a fact.
Yeah, as we all know, that Joe and Todd and, Connor and all those guys are great shots. And I've been competing. Todd, and Joe are pretty much all the same age. So I've been competing with these guys for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 solid years now. But yeah, anytime that you can be up next to those guys, it's always good. I'm glad to be on the team with them. But it was definitely a hard-fought battle to get on the FITASC team. But just really happy to be a part of it, you know. Yeah. And like you said, I think it is a good group of guys. Connor's coming on strong. He's young. He'll, you know, take the reins for the years to come, because I believe me, Joe, and Todd are aging out as far as FITASC is concerned. But sporting, we still have another year. So,
all right, let's talk about that for a minute. So y'all are getting of age to where you're going to be out of the junior category, or the concurrent. Who's coming up? I mean, you know these younger kids better than probably I do. So who's coming up? And who do you expect to see on these teams in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, this is always a conversation that I like to pick Dominic Grossi's brain about, because he's a big statistic guy. But there's a local kid. His name's Lane Piccolo. He's a great shot. He'll be up there in the next couple years. Griffin Howell, fellow game board shooter. Nice kid. He's coming up strong. Obviously, Connor Daniels. Turner Parcell was on the team. He'll be on it. He's only 18. So, I mean, I think that's a solid group of 4 guys. I'm sure I'm leaving 1 or 2 out. I think there's a kid down in Georgia, Zach's helping out, that's coming on strong as well. But I think that'll be, you know, the solid core base. But I think that it's always subject to change. You know, I mean, kids come out of nowhere, they get hot, and they make the team. It just happens.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of people that listen to this, I mean, there's a select few that know how it works making the team. But you really have to shoot a lot to get on Team USA. You know, it's not like you just shoot one tournament and bam, you're on there because you did well. I mean, you have to do well in several places. So it takes. Yeah,
I mean, I think realistically speaking, I know you got to shoot the U.S. Open, Nationals, and at least 2 regionals. But I mean, in my opinion, unless you're just shooting well, I mean, you got to kind of bank on 3, maybe 4 regionals, as well as the Open and Nationals, to have your best shot at it.
Yeah.
Not saying it can't be done, but it's just very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. You better be shooting your best if you're just going to go to a couple. That's for sure. Yeah. So before we move on, England or Hungary? So far, you're in Hungary. You've experienced England. Which one do you like so far?
So far, I will admit. So, I mean, it is I know I've said this a couple of times, but I mean, my first time being in Europe, I've enjoyed England a little bit more. I feel like it's just a little bit more normal to me. I will admit, Hungary has been a little bit interesting to get acquainted to. Yeah. But the people have been nice enough. They speak English to an extent, so that's nice. Tried to get my clothes washed the other day, and the lady was talking to me in Hungarian, and I truly had no idea. My Google Translate wouldn't work, so I just had to leave. But as far as the club here, I mean, the grounds look beautiful. They have it all set up from what I've seen, but it does look to be – the practice course was a lot of walking, and it's a little bit warmer here. I mean, it's about 100 in Texas from where I left from, but here it's about 90, so it's a little warm to be walking. But, you know, I got my stool and some Pedialyte, so hopefully we'll get through it.
All right. Have you ever noticed that if you're talking to someone that's a little hard of hearing, you know how you talk a little louder? You know, you talk a little slower and a little louder. Have you ever noticed when you talk to someone that don't understand you or you don't understand them that you find yourself doing the same thing to them? Like talking louder and slower. You know,
Yeah.
Are you doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I say the word slower like it's going to make them comprehend it. You know, it's quite comical.
Yeah.
And then they asked me something. I checked out of a pharmacy here, and I was buying a soda or something, and the lady started talking to me. I guess she was asking how my day was, and I just gave her the smile and a head nod. Then she just laughed and checked me out. So
yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's funny. So let's go back to the beginning. All right. So, you know, before you got to where you are now, when did you start in the sport, and how did you get started in it? And maybe how old were you?
How old? Probably. I mean, I have a video on my phone of me shooting probably one of my first, clay targets in about 2014. So I was about 11 years old. But as far as truly, going out and on my own and doing it, because the first time I went out in that video, my dad pretty much forced me, and I hated it. But I went out about a year later. I think I was probably 12, 13 years old. And there's this local club. There's a gentleman named Dwight Lumpkins, very nice guy. He used to own a club off of Highway 90 in Liberty, Texas, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. It's called Clay Mountains. And they would hold some charity shoots and stuff. And I started going out there and I started shooting probably when I was about 12 or 13 years old. But the main reason why I started shooting is my parents are divorced, and I moved in with my dad whenever I was 12 years old. And, you know, I was a big video gamer. I used to play a lot of video games, believe it or not. And my dad was not cool with that. So he said, I'm going to get you outside and I'm going to get you doing something that I like to do. My dad used to shoot a little skeet back in the day. Mm-hmm. So he brought me out to the gun club, and it just became something that me and him could do together and kind of helped us build a relationship. And it was probably the best thing that he's ever done for me. Not that he hasn't done a lot of other great things for me, but it truly changed the direction of my life. And I'm very grateful for that.
Really? That's interesting. So how did you take to, I guess you took on to it well, but you know, what was your first reaction when you said, I can't play, you know, he don't want me playing games anymore, but I have to shoot? You know, was it a negative thought?
I mean, I could still play the games, you know, it wasn't like he took it and threw it in the pond or anything, but it was more of just like, hey, let's do this. You know, he would kind of coerce me into it, and it slowly started to take. And then I slowly bit into it. And I always tell parents, especially, I'm like, you can't force the kid to do it. They kind of have to want to do it themselves. And I think as soon as he saw in my eyes that I wanted to do it, he was, you know, full steam ahead supporting me.
And you don't play games anymore, do you?
No, not at all. Not really. I mean, I have a computer, but it's mainly for schoolwork now. So
yeah. So when you started, did you get coaching right away, or how long was it before you started to shoot with a coach?
As far as professional instruction, it was a couple years. But there was this guy. His name's Joey Fick. He's from Dayton, Texas, and he is probably one of the most instrumental men in my life. He helped me out. I mean, I have so many stories of Dad, Joey, and myself going to, you know, Sealy or Huntsville or somewhere like that to shoot a weekend shoot. And I grew a couple inches, and we come home and we stick the gun stock in the pool table and get a heat gun to it, put some cast into it, you know, shimming it out with 2x4s, wrapping it in masking tape, you know, the whole deal. Mm-hmm. Joey was there, you know, to really lessen that learning curve that I had as far as just getting shooting. You know, he would help me fit my gun, help me with a little bit of technique stuff, you know, just general knowledge that was very, very, very beneficial to me in the early stages. But after about 2 or 3 years, I got hooked up with Steve Liberta, who's a local instructor. He's from upstate New York, but he's lived in Houston for about 10 years now. I met Steve at the 2017 or 18 Texas State in San Angelo. And I always tell this story because it's pretty funny. Me and Dad were watching the shoot-offs. They were shooting the Adios Cup, which is like the very last event. You shoot it on Sunday at Texas State. And Steve was tied with Corey Cruz and Tony Rivera. Rest in peace, Tony. Mm-hmm. But the three of them were shooting off. I think they tied on some high number, 96 or 7. And Tony got up there and shot a 7 out of 8. And then Corey got up there and shot an 8 out of 8. And then Steve got up there and he shot a 2 out of 8. And me and Dad were talking to him before, you know, he went to go shoot off. And we talked to him a little bit after, and then Steve always says that he was talking to somebody. He said, well, they ain't going to come back for a lesson. But we did. We came back for a lesson. I met him in Houston, and the rest is history. And Steve has not only been an instructor of mine for the last 5 years, but he's been a mentor to me. He's like my second dad. He's taught me a lot of lessons. He's hard on me, but that's what I need.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Steve and Dan Carlisle work together, right?
Yes, yeah. So I think Steve started working himself with Dan in the early 2000s and really took off. And Steve's, I think, won New York State 3 times. Caesar Guarini rep, nice guy, very established in the industry.
Right.
But, essentially same stuff. You know, Dan Carlisle, Steve Liberta. I just give the credit to Steve because that's who I worked with. But I also have a good relationship with Dan.
Yeah, and Steve, Steve, he's got a few good shooters. I know you, and he's got Halen Hanks, and who else has he helped up there?
He's got He's got me and Halen.
Mm-hmm.
He's got John Schneider, who's a good local shooter. He's got Trent Allen, who's not shooting as much because of school, but used to be a really good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Still is. Off the top of my head, he had Joyce Hunsaker, who won the rodeo shoot a couple times. Kara Maxwell, who was a Texas A&M trap and skeet. I think he helped Megan Harrington out a little bit. I mean, he's got his hands in a few different pockets for sure.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you brought up Dwight a few minutes ago. And Dwight and Doug, you know, they used to be the owners of Game Boy US, and I remember them telling me, they said, you know, we got this kid that's up and coming, and I'm telling you, you need to watch out for him. And I said, really, who is it? So, I mean, and it was you. And, you know, it's just really impressive to see, you know, how much you have grown literally in the sport and up, you know, into the shooter that you are today. I mean, they called it right for sure. So,
yeah, no, I owe a lot of respect and gratitude to both Dwight and Doug. I mean, they were the first sponsor that I had, and they put some faith into me. I think a long time ago. I think it was in 2017 or 18,
mm-hmm.
and, you know, decided to sponsor me.
Yep.
Back then, and I'm, you know, very grateful for that. But yeah, no, I mean, that's, you know, brings a smile to my face.
Yeah.
Still talk to Doug and Dwight, really nice guys. It's on to Dominic now, but, you know, still happy to be a part of those guys' lives.
Yeah, they're super guys for sure. So, you know, there's one thing that I know nothing about, and that's Greater Houston Gun Club. I haven't never been there. So I couldn't tell you what I can't tell you what it looks like. I can't tell you how it is to shoot there or anything like that. But I know you've won the club champion, you know, twice. And I know this is somewhat a prestigious accomplishment, especially for you folks over in Texas. So, and I guess it's because of all the good shooters in Texas is why I'm saying this. So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the parameters to the shoot have changed a little bit throughout the years, but essentially it's anywhere between 150 to 200 targets. It's half skeet and half sporting clays. In order to win it, you obviously have to be a member at the club. But in 2021 and 22, I won it. You know, I think Zach held it for a couple years. Bobby Fowler held it for a long period of time, from my understanding. I'm not sure the years. I'm sure it's several.
Right.
But I was fortunate enough in 21. I think I shot a 149 out of 150, and then last year I shot a 150 and I straighted it. And then this past year, actually a couple of days ago, I think it was a week ago, this past weekend, Grace Mabry, who's the president of Texas A&M Trap and Skeet, won it. She beat her boyfriend out, Austin Kempstead. Sorry to diss you like that, Austin, but you know, so now Grace is the club champion, so she gets her own little parking spot right there by the gun cleaning room, pavilion, and clubhouse. So it's a pretty nice location. I recommend it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like the parking spot idea for sure. It means you don't have to walk
yes
far.
Yeah, I think they got the idea, you know, from golf clubs and things like that. So
yeah, so up until this point, you know, name some of your accomplishments, you know, in the ones you're most proud of.
The ones I'm most proud of, I mean, the ones that haunt me a little bit is I got runner-up. I never won either of the rodeo shoots. If you're from Texas, you know what I'm talking about. The San Antonio livestock show and rodeo shoot I got runner-up at, and then the Young Guns I got runner-up at as well. But, I mean, I've won some 5 stands here and there. But I'll be the first to admit, I mean, I don't really have a big win. I've won a bunch of sub-junior stuff. I've won some junior stuff in Texas. But, you know, a lot of my competitors have, you know, won some stuff a little sooner than I have. But, you know, I always remind myself I'm still young. I'm only 20. I got the rest of my life to shoot. So my day will come, I'm sure.
And that's all that matters. You know, you can't win everything. That's for sure.
Exactly right.
So Will Fennell mentioned to me that you were starting to coach. And I've seen you post flyers online and, you know, about your coaching. Where are you doing it? How is that going? And is it what you expected it to be?
So I'm mainly doing it out at West Side. I do give lessons out at Greater. It's just living in College Station, going to school at Texas A&M. It's about 30 minutes further. So it's an hour round trip. So, you know, during the school year, it's harder to justify. But Lori and Dan Daniels have been really kind to me as far as, allowing me to go down there and teach on different days. Very flexible. But as far as teaching itself, I think Will told me that I should start teaching, I don't know, probably a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him like he was crazy, because I think that my initial thought, and I think people have this thought as well, is that I felt like I wasn't credible enough to teach. I thought that I was going to be trying to teach people how to be, masterclass shooters. But a lot of what the teaching that I do personally, and I really enjoy it, is I getting people into the sport in a positive way and an enjoyable experience for everybody. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a dad calls me because I'm a younger guy and his son can relate to me, and he goes out and we go shoot on the yellow course, and I help him break his first couple clays, or the first time he's ever shot a gun. Things like that mean a lot to me, because these people come back, and that's how we get the sport to grow.
Yeah.
But as far as teaching itself, I think it's really opened my eyes to how far I've come personally. And it's interesting, because some things that just come natural to me at this point, you have to put into words and describe to people what you're thinking. And it's sometimes difficult, but it's really rewarding. So I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Explain that. How do you have to put into words what you're seeing or thinking?
Yeah. So, I mean, Steve has drilled into me over the last 5 years, things of, making a plan, sticking to your plan, making your break point, where you see the target the best, different things like that, are almost second nature, as far as, just making the general whole point, how tight I want to hold my eyes to a trap, depending on the speed of it. Do I want to take it sooner rather than later? Obviously it gets more advanced and advanced, but typically for, regular targets, you have somebody come out and you ask them to shoot, and they don't even know how to mount the gun, and that's something that you truly don't even think about at the point that, a lot of us are at, who have been shooting for a number of years. It just kind of happens,
right?
So things like that, just the baby steps, mounting the gun, trying to get both eyes open, making sure we're looking at the clay when we pull the trigger, things like that, really help these people in the beginning stages.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you're a student at Texas A&M. It seems like I've had everybody that goes to that school on this podcast, and it seems like everybody that goes to that school is in construction science. So there shouldn't be any problems with any buildings around there anytime soon.
Yeah. I will blame the engineer if it goes wrong.
Yeah, you're going to have to. So how are you – tell me about that, and how are you handling school and shooting at the same time?
Yeah, so as far as deciding whether or not to go to A&M, I mean, I grew up in a town called Huffman, Texas, which is about 30 miles northeast of, central downtown Houston. And I'll be honest, I didn't really think about where I wanted to go to school until about my junior year of high school. And all of a sudden, my friends started taking the SATs and applying to different colleges and things like that. And I thought, oh, well, maybe I should do that. I'm not terribly smart, but I'm not terribly dumb either. I knew I couldn't get into, UT or anything like that. So I didn't want to go to Lubbock. So it kind of, narrowed it down pretty quick. So I decided on A&M. Joe, myself, Blake Bajali, Austin Kempstead, about in 2018, Joe came from Florida because he was living in Florida at the time.
Right.
We all decided we were going to go to College Station because Austin's brother was attending the university then. And we went to a South Carolina football game in November, right after Nationals. And I remember it was maybe a week after Nationals, and it was a lot of fun. We went to a football game, and I think that was about the time where I thought, maybe I could go here. Yeah. And that ended up being the deal because it's only about an hour and a half from where I live to College Station, so I could come home if I need to. The clubs are still close, and a lot of my friends are still there, and we have a great shooting team there. And the Aggie network is unbelievable. So it's probably one of the better decisions I've made in my life.
Yeah. So shooting had a big part of that for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I know that there's some other, shooting universities in Texas But me personally, me and my dad sat down and had a conversation, and my dad told me, he said, "You're going to college to get an education, not to shoot a gun. So go to a university that you want to go to. Don't go to a school just to shoot."
Right.
And I thought that was good advice for me personally. So I ended up going to Texas A&M, and school is the main priority, but sometimes shooting does become the main priority when it needs to be. But it's all about having balance.
Yeah. So, and your major, what is that going to lead you to as far as a job?
Yeah, so construction science is basically construction management at about any other university. We just like to put a spin on it like Aggies do, I guess. But as far as what the major pertains to is essentially communicating between, the engineer, architects, and the owners of a job. So like project management, superintendent, things like that. You're going to be on the job, or you can be in the office, but it's just kind of putting what's on the paper into real life and making sure that the owner likes it at the same time. So, but I have an internship with Harvey Cleary for this next fall in 2024. The one unique thing about construction science is that we have to have a semester-long internship, whether it's in the spring or fall semester. So I'll be working from pretty much August until January. I'll be working on an actual job, and it counts towards college credit.
So being overseas right now, are you taking summer courses at all? Or are you done for some for the summer?
Yeah. I finished on July 5th. So,
nice.
That was a 5-week course. It wasn't too cool. One of them opened up 6 p.m. Central Time, which is conveniently about midnight in London, and it closed at 6 a.m. in London. So I had to take that one a couple days. I think it was in between the main events, but no excuses. You got to get it done. I signed up for them and paid the money, so I got to do it.
Yeah, that's right. So if you were talking to some young kids that are, younger than you, of course, 3 or 4 years younger than you, and kind of want to go on the same path that you've went on as far as being on the team, as far as going to a college and shooting in college, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would tell them to get involved. I mean, it depends on the age, but I really do enjoy the time in my life whenever I did shoot a little bit in the youth programs, 4-H, and went to those shoots. There's a lot of opportunity for scholarships, especially in Texas, between the rodeo shoots and different 4-H shoot. I know Barbers Hill has a huge charity shoot out at Greater Houston annually. I would say, take advantage of that as much as you can. If you shoot NSCA targets, you're more than qualified and capable of, doing well at those events.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, don't judge yourself on your competition. Just judge yourself on hold yourself accountable. If you go out to practice and you feel like you didn't practice hard enough, then it's like any other sport. You got to put in the work to receive the outcome that you desire. A lot of people do have God-given talent, but some people don't. You got to work for it. But it's a never-ending process, that's for sure. And there's no substitute for time behind the gun. As many times as you can get behind the gun, I recommend it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's 100%. That's a fact right there. I tell my son, I said, you're not, you come out here thinking you're going to shoot 100. I said, are you kidding?
Yeah. And I want to tell this story real quick, just about, attitude, being young. And I thank my father for this. I will admit, to this day, I'll get a little snippy sometimes, and I might, toss the shell at a higher velocity than I should, but I try to, hold it together as best I can. But I remember I was shooting for about 2 years, and I was at Abel's. I was shooting the Atlas Open, and I was probably about 13 or 14 years old. And I remember I was shooting this hard pair, and I think I shot a 1 out of 6 on the station. It was a big Batu and a big orange crosser. And I missed him, and I missed him, and I missed him, and then I hit one, And I turn around, and as I'm turning around, I kind of, like a little arrogant kid, I kind of fling the shells out into the field. Well, I go to sit in the Ranger, and I'm, PO'd, and I sit down, and my dad comes up to me and grabs me by the collar of my shirt, and he points out there, and he says, "Go get your," and some 4-letter words came out, and he said, "Go get your shells." And so he made me walk out there in front of everybody and go get my shells, and, that was the last time that I ever did that. So I just want, the kids to know that even though you may be young, first impressions last, and nobody likes a little kid that's arrogant, throwing their shows. Just try and be respectful as much as you can. Goes a long way.
I agree. That's a great thing to say, for sure. Now let's talk about the people that support you now. You've got a lot of people that are behind you, your gun, your hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, name those people.
Recently, the most recent one that I'm really, really excited about, I hadn't made an Instagram post or anything, but I need to. I'm trying to get a bunch of videos together for it. But I got picked up by Blaser USA in January, which was awesome. A lot of people know that I've shot Blaser for a long time, but I think the first gun I shot was an autoloader for a couple months, and then I got a Blaser. 6-7 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I've been faithful to them. They've always been good to me. But as well as game bore, it was Doug and Dwight. Now it's Dominic. Dominic's a great guy. He's out there at the Meadows doing an awesome job. Doug and Dwight did a good job getting a foothold in the country. Paul from Game Bore UK is awesome guy all around, treated me great at EJ, really helped me out. Also RE Ranger, awesome people there. Love my prescription glasses, really helps me out. I got some Odo Pro earbuds, some Bluetooth rechargeables, which are awesome, really good for duck hunting. And then Ultimate Shooting Accessories. And, they really help me out. They give me a new vest when mine gets a little stinky and a little drawn out. So other than that,
you got everybody you need. You got everybody you need.
Yeah, I got everything I need, and I'm very, very grateful for it. I also, my last and most important sponsor, his name's Cade Faetche, my father. He's going to laugh when he hears that, but he's supported me financially for a couple years now. Oh yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I like him. He's always got a smile on his face when I see him. So I hadn't seen him in a minute though. It seems like I hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, the one thing that my dad has instilled in me is being independent, and I know that some other juniors have their parents around, which is awesome. But if I have my dad around, that's great. But if not, I don't. I'm self-sufficient either way. But truthfully, a lot of it just has to do with work. My dad works at a subcontracting company, and he's an estimator. So he's got a stressful job, but, he comes when he can. If it's in Texas, he's going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you're overseas. It's late. I appreciate you coming on with me and, starting up with FITASC. I hope that you do well and bring home the gold.
Yeah, we're going to try. We got the opening ceremony tomorrow, and then day after that, it all starts.
There you go. Well, make it fun. Take you plenty of pictures and remember something like that, because not everybody gets to do it. So, good luck to you. Good luck to the team, and we'll be watching, and we'll see you when you get back over this way.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, Cade. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks for listening. For more episodes, go to our website, shotgunsportsusa.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook.